When a woman leaves, she often believes she understands your value more than you do. She assumes you'll always be there, always available, always waiting for her to figure herself out. But something powerful happens when you step out of her world, not with bitterness, not with drama, not with attempts to convince her of your worth, but with quiet certainty. When your absence replaces your presence, it forces her to confront a reality she never expected. Life feels different without you. Not worse immediately, not better immediately, but undeniably different. Women don't think about the long term impact of losing a good man in the moment. They think about emotions. And when emotions shift, perspectives change. So when you disappear with calm confidence, that shift begins. At first, she might feel relief or freedom, thinking she made the right choice. But as the days pass, the silence grows louder. She starts to notice the small things you used to do, the subtle emotional support you provided without her even realizing it. She begins to see how the world reacts to her differently when you're not standing behind her. It's not about missing a body, it's about missing energy, presence, grounding. And that is something very rare. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting back to her what she had and didn't appreciate. It triggers a kind of emotional awareness she couldn't access while she still had easy access to you. Then the comparisons begin. She meets new people, interacts with new personalities, and suddenly the contrast hits her. Not everyone listens the way you did. Not everyone shows up the way you did. Not everyone brings peace instead of chaos. A woman lives deeply through emotional memory, and emotional memory is triggered most intensely by loss and silence. She starts remembering moments that felt good, moments that felt safe, moments that felt like home. This is where your value begins to rise in her mind, not because you changed anything, but because she finally has space to see what you brought into her life. The more she sees the difference between you and the world, the more she realizes she didn't lose a man. She lost stability, affection, consistency, and emotional leadership. Regret doesn't hit all at once. It builds slowly, day by day, until she finds herself thinking more about you than she expected. She wonders what you're doing, if you've moved on, if someone else is experiencing the version of you she took for granted. That thought alone can create a deep emotional pullback toward you. Women don't return because someone begged. They return when their heart starts missing something they can't find anywhere else. Your absence forces her to face your true value in a way your presence never could. And when she finally sees it, really sees it, she comes back not out of convenience, but because she realizes that losing you was the real mistake. Women don't come back because you convince them, chase them, or prove anything. They come back for one reason: the emotional experience with you is irreplaceable. When a woman leaves, she isn't thinking logically about the total impact of losing you. She's reacting to a moment, an emotion, or a temporary belief that she can do better, feel better, or lie better without you. But life has a way of showing people the truth when they least expect it. And the truth always emerges through contrast, the contrast between what she had with you and what she finds out there in the world. When she steps away, she enters a space of curiosity. She wants to explore, to see what else is out there, to feel something different. She thinks new attention will feel more exciting, new men will feel more romantic, new conversations will feel more stimulating. In her mind, she expects an upgrade. But what she usually discovers instead is inconsistency, ego games, shallow effort, and emotional immaturity. She expects to find better, but she often finds bare minimum dressed up as effort. And that's when the emotional recalibration begins. A woman might talk confidently when she leaves you. She might act like she's moving on effortlessly, as if her life is suddenly filled with options and excitement. But once the initial freedom rush fades, she starts paying attention to the quality of the energy around her. She starts comparing how new men communicate versus how you communicated. She compares how safe she felt with you versus how unpredictable others feel. She starts noticing the absence of someone who actually cared, and that emotional gap becomes a growing shadow in her mind. It follows her everywhere, even when she tries to ignore it. This is the point where she begins to realize something profound: that a connection cannot be replaced just because she wants it to be. Chemistry cannot be recreated just because she's searching for it. And genuine emotional investment is far rarer than she thought when she walked away. She didn't leave because you lacked value. She left because she didn't understand it yet. But life teaches her the lesson your words never could. That realization hits hardest when she starts noticing her own emotional responses, Maybe she feels disappointed by someone new. Maybe she feels lonely at moments she expected to feel fulfilled. Maybe she suddenly misses how understood you made her feel without her having to explain everything. The contrast makes your presence grow stronger in her mind even while you're gone. And that's when the emotional pull begins to turn inward. Women come back because they discover you weren't the problem, you were the rare exception. And once a woman realizes she walked away from something real, the regret becomes impossible to ignore, slowly drawing her back toward the very man she underestimated. When a woman comes back after hurting you, it's rarely because she suddenly realized everything on her own. It's because time, silence, and distance forced her to face something she never expected. The emotional stability you provided was the anchor she didn't appreciate until it was gone. Men with emotional discipline are incredibly rare. Most guys react, explode, chase, beg, or try to convince her why she made a mistake. But when you didn't do any of that, when you chose silence, self-respect, and forward movement, you separated yourself from every man she thought she could replace you with. And that difference becomes the trigger for her regret. Women feel deeply, especially when it comes to security and emotional connection. When she hurt you and you didn't fall apart, it challenged a subconscious belief she had that you needed her more than she needed you. But when your actions proved the opposite, that your world didn't stop, that your life didn't collapse, that you didn't break, it created a powerful shift in her perception. She starts asking herself questions she never asked before. And why isn't he chasing me? Was I wrong about his feelings? Did I underestimate his value? That curiosity slowly becomes anxiety, and that anxiety becomes emotional discomfort. And ironically, it's emotional discomfort, not love, not guilt, not sudden clarity. That pulls her back toward you. Human beings gravitate toward what makes them feel regulated, stable, safe. While you didn't react to her walking away, the other men she meets most likely do. They either become needy, pushy, jealous, inconsistent, or overly available. None of them provide the calm emotional presence she had with you. None of them give her the same sense of grounded masculinity that once made her feel safe. The rest of the world overwhelms her emotionally, while your presence, even in distance, represents calmness and control. That's when she begins to replay conversations, analyze old messages, and reconsider moments she brushed off earlier. She begins to reconstruct the story in her mind. The same independence she was so confident about now feels heavy and hollow. The same freedom she celebrated now feels like isolation. And the same certainty she had when she hurt you now feels like confusion. Because deep down, your lack of reaction communicates something more powerful than any words ever could. You were a man with options, confidence, and boundaries. And those qualities are magnetic beyond anything she expected. Eventually, her mind loops around a single unfiltered thought: he didn't need me, he chose me. And that reality shakes her because women always return to the man they believe chose them freely, not from desperation or weakness, but from strength. And when she realizes she misread that strength, regret becomes unavoidable, pulling her back to what she once took for granted. When she returns after hurting you, it's because life forced her to confront something she never wanted to admit. Losing you didn't free her, it exposed her. It exposed the fact that the connection she had with you wasn't something she could just replace with attention, validation, or temporary excitement. And the longer you stayed silent, the more that truth started echoing in her mind. She begins to realize that silence isn't punishment, it's clarity. It allows her to see herself without the comfort of your presence, your reassurance, or your emotional support. And once she sees herself clearly, she also sees the role she played in losing you. That's when guilt, curiosity, nostalgia, and regret all start to blend together. She replayed the moment she walked away hundreds of times, but now she's noticing the parts she didn't pay attention to before: the tone of your voice, the way you didn't argue, the calm acceptance in your eyes. That calmness becomes the source of her regret because it makes her feel like you saw the end before she did. It feels like you understood the truth she was running from. She wasn't ready for a man like you. And now that she's feeling the emotional consequences of her choices, she starts questioning her entire decision. This is where reality hits her hardest. When she walked away, she expected you to react, she expected you to chase, to prove yourself, to fight for her, to give her the reassurance she didn't earn. But when you didn't do any of that, when you didn't break, didn't beg, didn't collapse, It shattered the version of you she had in her mind. Suddenly, she sees you as the man she didn't take seriously, strong, focused, and grounded. And once she sees you that way, her regret turns into desire, not because she's in love again, because she realizes she misread your value. That realization grows stronger when she compares her experience with you to the men she meets after you. Those men don't remain calm when things get difficult. They don't stay disciplined when emotions rise. They don't carry themselves with the same sense of purpose you once showed effortlessly. She expected to find better, but instead she found men who fall apart under pressure, men who are inconsistent, men who chase without purpose, and men who crumble the moment they feel insecure. None of them match the emotional safety you provided without even trying, and that's when regret becomes emotional gravity. It pulls her back to the one place she felt understood, appreciated, and mentally grounded. She doesn't come back because she suddenly feels something new. She comes back because she finally understands what she lost. And that understanding makes her realize the consequences of walking away from a man who was already becoming the best version of himself. And once that awareness hits her, returning becomes her only way of finding peace with the choice she never should have made. When a woman comes back after hurting you, it's often because the world showed her something she didn't want to face. You were the emotional upgrade she thought she could replace, and every experience after you only confirmed it. She didn't return because you convinced her. She didn't return because you chased her. She didn't return because she suddenly woke up one morning full of clarity. She returned because your absence gave her a mirror that reflected her patterns, her choices, and the consequences of underestimating a man who wasn't trying to control her, win her, or fix her. You simply stepped back, and that step back revealed the truth she was too distracted to see. Silence makes her compare, and comparison is the trigger that pulls her mind toward regret. Every man she meets after you becomes a reminder. He reminds her of what she had but didn't appreciate. He reminds her of how calm you were, how centered you were, how you didn't need her attention to feel like a man. She starts noticing the small things, how other men rush emotionally, how they over compliment to compensate for insecurity, how they get jealous, how they don't listen, how they lack depth, purpose, or stability. She sees the difference not because you changed, but because the world around her stripped away the illusion that she had endless emotional options equal to what she walked away from. And this contrast builds quietly. She doesn't talk about it, she won't admit it, but internally she starts to miss the version of herself she was when she was with you. She misses the ease she felt. She misses the way your presence grounded her. She misses the feeling of being around a man who didn't need validation, who didn't need her to act perfect, who wasn't trying to prove anything. She begins to realize that the emotional safety you provided wasn't something she could just create with someone new. It was something that came naturally from who you were becoming. And that's when her curiosity turns into internal conflict. On one hand, she walked away with confidence. On the other hand, she's now comparing every new emotional experience to what she had with you. The more she compares, the more she feels like she made a choice driven by emotion instead of awareness. And awareness all comes later, especially when silence gives her space to see what her emotions blinded her to. When she finally realizes she can't recreate the connection, the consistency, or the feeling she had with you, that's when regret becomes louder than her pride. She comes back not because you are her only choice, but because you were her best choice, the one she didn't fully understand until life showed her the difference. And once life makes that difference undeniable, returning becomes the only way she can calm the conflict inside her. And it's in that moment of clarity that she turns back toward you, hoping the door she closed isn't locked forever. What pulls a woman back after she's hurt you isn't your silence alone. It's the evolution that happens inside that silence. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing, and stop trying to hold together something she chose to break, you shift from being emotionally available on her terms to being a man who is finally living on his own terms. And that shift forces her to confront something powerful. The version of you she expected to fall apart has now become the version she can't stop thinking about. She didn't expect you to grow. She didn't expect you to level up. She didn't expect you to become stronger in the very place she thought you were weakest. When a woman leaves, she assumes you'll stay frozen in the last moment she saw you, emotional, wounded, confused, or trying to make sense of what happened. But when you walk away with silence and start improving every part of your life, you break the emotional script she built in her mind. She expected to lose a man who depended on her attention, but instead she realizes she lost a man who used the breakup as fuel. Every new step you take, mentally, physically, financially, socially, becomes an invisible reminder of the man she underestimated. Progress speaks louder than closure. Growth speaks louder than explanations. When she hears about your improvements, sees your changes, or even senses the shift in your energy from a distance, it hits her with a truth she didn't prepare for. You didn't lose anything. You gained clarity, strength, and direction. And that makes her question everything she believed about the breakup. A woman can ignore your words. She can dismiss your explanations. She can block your messages. But she can't escape the emotional impact of seeing you evolve without her. And this evolution affects her more than she will ever admit. She starts comparing the man you are now to the man she left behind. She starts wondering if she made a permanent decision based on temporary emotions. She starts feeling a kind of pressure she can't shake off. The pressure of knowing another woman will eventually benefit from the man she walked away from. That thought causes more emotional turmoil than any argument ever could. Because deep down, she knows that men who transform after heartbreak become men who attract better, live better, and love better. That's when her return begins. Not because she's suddenly changed, but because your growth has changed her perception. She sees your life expanding while hers remains filled with the same emotional patterns. She sees your value rising while her certainty is falling. And that imbalance pulls her back because she wants to reconnect with the man she now realizes she misjudged. In the end, women come back for one powerful reason. Your growth makes her see the truth she ignored, that losing you meant losing the emotional stability and potential she didn't recognize until it was gone. And once that realization settles in, returning feels like the only way to silence the regret she created herself.